Alright, we are back. Sorry I have been MIA here for the last, I don't know, 3, 4 days. I have been out camping with my family, out somewhere where I don't hardly get signal at all. But a lot of stuff has developed over the last few days, stuff that is kind of going into how our season played out. And so I'm going to go over that. Some of it's going to have a bit of a backstory from a couple of seasons ago. But to start here at the front, our season, let's go here to the rankings and to Alliance Power. So our allies and our enemies this season, for us, it was Burn and TPF against TK and DN. All right. Now, as you can see, our total power right now was not near this high at the start of the season. At the start of the season, I think we were somewhere around 5.5 billion, and we were actually ranked three. TPF was ranked 2, and then TK was ranked 1. TK was around 6.3 to 6.4 at the start of the season, if I remember, and then TPF was around 5.8 ish, and then we were around 5.5 ish. DN is about the same as where they were at. Um, but with that being said, our allies again were Burn and TPF against TK and DN. Now, to speak on this, TK is a culmination of 3 different servers from Season 3. Most active players. So they are 3 servers that merged together at the end of Season 3 for Season of Strife. 2 of those servers, for those of y'all that have been watching my videos for a little bit, y'all should be familiar with. They were ones that we fought against last season, which was T1 and XX. And then they added in IPAW as well. XX, we have actually had some dealings with back. We've been fighting against them. Technically, let me rephrase that. They were our ally in Season 2 against PHX, but when migration happened, they lost pretty much most of their players, and so they were not able to really make it into Finals On, as they only had about 10 or 12 players that were really active during the season. But during the season, they did bring in a fair number of players, a lot of recruitment and everything. And for Season 3, they were our enemy, along with T1. First off, I don't have really much negative stuff to say about XX. There are a few individuals here and there that, do run their mouth a little bit, but that's to be said. Pretty much in any game, it does happen. But then we get over to T1. T1, in my opinion, again, some of their players there ruined it for me, as they were one of the most toxic, trash-talking alliances that I have ever played against since I have been playing Rise of Kingdoms or Call of Dragons. Specifically, just a few players. The alliance itself is a really good alliance. They have some really great fighters in T1, but there are a few players there that just kind of ruined the entire season for most everyone else. And so, hold on, let me go back here so I can kind of keep looking at what I'm talking about here. And so, if y'all watched our videos for last season for Burn, y'all know that we did end up coming out on top and beating both XX and T1. During the season, while we were fighting, T1's R5, which would be this fella right here, who back then, this account was called C6, got with us and started talking about a potential merge for Burn and T1. All right, and as everybody knows, this game, at the end of every season, you're constantly removing players and bringing in new players. While I wasn't happy about the way some of the other players talked throughout this game, throughout the season, I mean, and kind of how they were trash talking and just some of the stuff they were saying. For the betterment of the alliance, I do think merges are a good thing or can be a good thing, and so we were in the process of talking about it until this Astra fella right here, uh, when he brought up the issue, he wanted us to merge with them, so he wanted all of Burn to go to his alliance, and he wanted to retain R5 and most of the R4 positions and essentially just absorb us. And when we told him that no, we were absolutely not interested in that, he flew off the rails, started talking a whole bunch of trash, saying a whole bunch of bad things about Burn, and that we didn't know what we were doing as leaders, and just, this, and that. Unfortunately, I do not have those screenshots anymore, so again, this is just my opinion and my point of view. But the guy went off the rails and just lost his marbles because he didn't get his way, and we didn't want to join him and, give up full control of our alliance. And at the time when he proposed that deal, we had no need to merge into them, whereas they had every need to be able to merge into someone because they were, not as active. But that ends off the end of season 3. So as you can tell, because we didn't merge in with them, Astra come together and got iPaul, what was left over after them, his Alliance T1, and the Alliance XX from last season, and all merged into one alliance this season, which was TK. Uh, and so again, it was a culmination of 190 players, but the most active players from all three alliances merged into one. And so I knew it when that happened at the start of the season. In my opinion, TK was the favorite to win, just because of how active they were. Now that's not to say we didn't remove players and the other alliances weren't active, but I do think TK had the advantage there, at least in a 1v1 matchup. Now, now that we kind of got that out of the way and we understand who our enemies were and, um, how TK came to be, the way this season folded out for us is we dropped our territory here. We built in through here. Actually, we came in through the top up here originally. Came around here and took this spire and got a couple of flags in here. And now, not giving not taking TK's credit or anything. I will give them credit. But what we did is when we came in here, our original plan was to just hold this spire and keep this rock. We pushed in here, we took the spire, and we were getting ready to build a couple of flags up here for defense. And TK pushed over on us. We actually beat their march, or their, what do you call it, the little ball that, because they were all the way over here still. So they marched all the way over here, brought a ball over here, and we beat their ball. And once we did that, people got excited and over confident. And so we started, every time they would come over, some of our players would start chasing them back across, and it would cause a chain reaction and start chasing them back across. And on top of that, we, as an alliance, were running some rallies against forts and stuff up here when we shouldn't have been doing that. And needless to say, we made some bad calls in leadership, and we can own that. As well as just some very sloppy play in terms of us over pursuing and over chasing them that caused our infantry to get drained for the most part. And then when by the time TK had gotten over here, we just didn't have very much infantry left to fight with. And so that's something we are working on this season, is having everyone get an infantry march built up. Because if y'all watch some of my fighting videos where we were fighting against T1, we don't have enough of the front line. We just don't in the alliance, and it's something we got to work on. But needless to say, once they got over here and took the Spire, we knew we weren't going to be able to hold the zone in a 1v1 against them, without a Spire or some kind of advantage. And so we tactically retreated out of this zone on purpose. We pulled back out, and as you can see, we kind of built in here a little bit just so we could come in and kind of troll them and, fight against them and play around. But we pulled back out, built around over this corner over here and came into zone 3 and built in this zone and, pretty much set up everything. And this is where we sat for most of the season while we waited on the final zone. And what we did is we knew that we would be in a 1v1 matchup against T1 again. And we knew that realistically we wouldn't be able to fight them in a 1v1. So what we did is set up a defense over here that they could not break through. There was no way. We had flags up here with a ton of farms ported up here, just all over the place. And then we had two bastions here, right, and then another one here that pretty much made it impossible for them to be able to build a flag through here. And we had the bastions far enough back to where the only place they could have built the flag would have been right here to touch one of the bastions to rally them. But they just, needless to say, we built a defense that there's no way they could have gotten through here, even with their numbers. And plus we had the bridge advantage as well. And so they were not able to break through here. And so we held through there all the way up until, where are we at? Right here till final zone. And we built through final zone, and all the way through here, with our secondary alliance. Sorry, right here, through here, with our secondary alliance. And we came through here. TK set up a good defense right here that we couldn't get through because they were able to drop a bastion here and block this route. And so what we did is built with the second alliance down this way and came down through here and met Burn right here. I'm sorry, met TK right here along with our allies. It started trying to push them through here. Now, by the time we had did all this, we were pretty much drained on resources, especially because we were up here consistently trying to rally this pass to help take pressure off of our allies down south. In doing so, it drained a lot of our resources and drained a lot of our infantry for us to have for final zone. So again, it's another mistake that I feel like we made, consistently trying to rally and take this pass when our original plan, like in the previous zone, was supposed to be here and sit here and play defense. And again, we made some calls that shouldn't have been made. Needless to say, by the time we got in the final zone, we were already a bit weaker than we should have been in terms of infantry, things like that. And so we had to come down this way to help fight with TPF, because 1v1 we couldn't beat TK up top. And while we were fighting up top, TK, they've had amazing activity all season. It just seems like consistently they have 60 plus players online at all times. At all times, it just seems like their activity has never dropped all season. And that gives them credit. They've been able to keep up that activity all season. And so what was happening is while we were up here, our activity, we were starting to come into our downtime, and so TK started building down this way, and with DN, their allies, started 2v1 in TPF, and so we abandoned up here to try to come down this way and to make it more of a 2v2. Now, I did fight here for the first day that we were down here, and then after that, I went, had a family vacation, and so I went, and did some camping here. But what happened while I was offline, this guy, Astra, that I was telling you about, who was in their alliance, I don't know all of the internal aspects as to why, but he essentially got voted out of being an R4 and told to leave the server. I do know that his personality probably played a big factor into that. Again, I don't have the screenshots, but I have seen them as to where he will holler at his players, call them names, call them useless because they're not doing what he wants them to do. This and that, and needless to say, he just treats his players very badly and the people in his alliance very badly. And I just feel like that they did get tired of it, and they had voted him out of R4 and told to leave the server. And this was right before we went into the final zone. And so while we were fighting in the final zone, he didn't. I didn't really see him very much on the field. Didn't really see him in chats. And so what happened was, is we were getting here, and it was a pretty solid back and forth 1v1 type thing. We would burn a flag here, and then TK would burn a flag, and so we stay here for about a day and a half. Um, excuse me, doing nothing. Back and forth, back and forth, until this happened, and I'm gonna share a little bit of a video from one of TK's members, to which I do have permission to do so, and I will tag his video in the comments so that y'all can see all of it. But this is from his point of view. So let me bring it over here, and we are going to go full screen. And this is. And so I'm not going to share all of that. I want y'all to. Y'all can go over to his channel and watch the full video of that if you want. But that did share some of the screenshots that they had from their Discord server. And essentially, what happened is when that happened and they had to go back to Home Kingdom and start defending, we were able to push them burn up through here. And then TPF was able to push them up through here. And we had them about here. Because they were split. And DN, for the most part, was fairly drained. They had a few players here and there, but it was really TK that was doing most of the fighting. I'd say probably about 85% of the field presence was TK. And we were able to get them pushed back here and even touch the dragon while they were capturing it. And again, you can watch his video and see their point of view of that. But I don't know. I guess they got everything handled in Home Kingdom, at least to a point. Or if they just abandoned Home Kingdom for a little bit and came back and regrouped. And they were able to regroup enough and fight and push us back down to where we were at. And once they pushed us back down here, they were able to get a bastion down. And now that they've got the bastion down, it's pretty much impossible for us to push through this way. So there's no way for us to get through here. And then up here as well, they can drop a bastion again if need be. And so they've essentially got us locked here. We can't come through this way. The only other way we could do is would have to come through this plateau and then come around this way. But again, DN has a bastion that they could just drop right here at this choke. And so essentially, yes, we have lost this season. It was a great fight. I had a lot of fun. I did miss the last day and a half or so of us pushing up here. Again, because I was offline with my family. But with that being said, it was a great fight. I will say I was kind of disappointed in terms of the way that we showed up throughout the season. Some of us, we got a lot of good players, a lot of great fighters. But there were a fair number of players that from last season that stayed in the alliance that were very active last season, and we replaced a lot of what we would have considered the dead weight. And so I thought, or at least I felt like we should have been really active this season, and to come up like we did, um, it was just very disappointing throughout the season for me. In terms of like for what we had show up for pass two and pushing into that zone was just very very underwhelming. We did have a bit show up, a good bit show up for the past four, and some show up for the start of Zone 5, but then just kind of disappeared off after that. And so consistently, I would say we had about 60 to 70 players throughout this season that fought consistently, and the rest were just either no shows or whatnot. Now, some of them are migrants and we're locked in Zone 1, as you can see our total power. But with that being said, we have replaced a good bit. We are in a really, really good spot for next season. We are in the process now of removing the more dead weight that didn't show up this season. And so if you are interested in joining Burn, we are not disbanding. I know there was a rumor of that going around as well. We are not disbanding, and we are open for migration right now. We are server 640, so if you are interested, you can message myself or Finn. But with that being said, I do appreciate y'all for watching. That was just my point of view on season 3. I'm sorry, on season of Strife 1. And look forward to seeing y'all in the next one.